we move on to our next poet, and our next poet is from China. So you'll have to be a little patient. If you can see, she sent a video because it was difficult for her to log on to Zoom from China. There were all kinds of constrictions there. She tells me, I'm not making this up because it's a political situation. It's what she told me. And we have a sort of video recording of a poem, which I hope Calvin is able to put up for us. Let me introduce her. She's an avant-garde crossover epic poet, as well as a multi-genre and multilingual writer, founder of the Encyclopedic Poetry School, 2007 initiator of the Hermaphroditic writing movement, and numerous crossover projects with international poets, musicians, and artists. She graduated from Beijing International Studies University and is a member of Writers Association of China, Translators Association of China, and Poetry Institute of China. He's published 11 books, including 5 poetry collections, among them Ephemeral Memories and Beyond the Soft 10, Avant-Garde Trilogy, Agent, the Ensemencement, the Nuage, and Cloud Seeding Agent. She co-edited edited Poesia Sans Fronteros, is also a mountaineering enthusiast who has traveled across China, she says, 3 times between 2018 and 2023, with remarkable experiences with the great mountains. So Yin Xiaoyuan is the one who will be presenting her poetry.
Hi, everybody. This is Chinese poet Yin Xiaoyuan. Today, I'm going to read a poem from my geology series. 鸣鼓骤，黑布林。黑布林内含千军，明暗界上风声大作。史前宇宙中，它在太阳周边发出震耳欲聋的嗡鸣，逼近而不奔突，疏离而不挣脱。连接它们的不可见鱼线横在，看似化石的果肉不断坍塌自塑。最初的代谢将日光咀嚼为影子，重复吐出。在近日点，红色果浆从各毛孔里冒出，形成密布孔洞，称为环形山。酷暑严寒交替中，表皮下初次生成弹性皱褶，在远日点，它开始被星系内外的光芒追逐、捶打。蛋白质、核酸与多糖，这些糖霜与光速破灭与流失，盛极与湮灭只在一瞬。残存的液滴相互聚合，以不死为终极意志，形体如光源结成，星际放送古老密码，粉屑被离心力抛散至无垠。赤道处生出一圈裂缝，有光线刀锋般的削皮轨迹。呼吸，发散，原始之水，剔除体内褐暗的硫。蓝色玉带升腾与解冻之声，到九绳带，流声依稀可辨，白色散尽，粗砺中可听到平滑油层包裹地核，载着坚硬的岩石，在最表层滑动漂移，陨石流带荡，不远不近跟随地球的星体。在暗调与耀目光焰中切换，呈现铁红色，半融化，被何处飞来的星体碰撞，留下坑坑。此后若干纪元，它们面向地球，似宇宙的未完之作，留有石膏与初步刻痕，最终落成微海、肥沃海与风暴海。Thank you.
Okay, so we kind of heard that she actually sent this recording of her poems, and she also sent a translation, which I'm going to try and read for you. This is called Hadean Eon, the Black Plum. The black plum was a ball of iron in disguise, so the terminator between its bright part and shadow was moving in a reluctant way, traceless in the universe. It rumbled across vastness, orbiting around bursting flames of the sun, just a breath away, cruising all dimensions with its obstinate, lumbering pace, as if it were flying on wires against a green screen. Its fossilized flesh collapsed and was remodeled again, its primordial metabolic system chewed up light years of sunshine and ruminated eternally. At perihelion, boiling vermilion juice was squeezed out of its pores, so the pores stayed agape ever since. Craters, their formal name, in the alternating of heat and cold, creases appeared furtively under its skin. At aphelion, it was chased and bettered by rays within and beyond the galaxy. Proteins, nucleic acids, and polysaccharides gathered here. They were sugar frosting over the sphere, which perished when light elapsed. Prosperity or annihilation, once you had one moment to decide it, a hangover from past ages. Droplets kept merging into bigger water bodies, but the motions were so unobviously slow. Immortality was the goal to be achieved. Shapes were born out of light sources and their mirrors in succession. There were signals reflected across the interstellar spaces and powder ejected along centrifugal tracks into limitless expanses. A fit of crumbling could be observed near the equator, like traces of being peeled. A crack was right beneath it. Breaths, evaporations, primal water, dark filter residue of sulfur was discarded. A sound of thawing was heard from the azure belt. When Nectarian period came, the flow could be distinguished at a distance. When the paleness on its surface faded, reservoirs wrapping around its core started moving, with hard rocks set afloat on the surface. Meteorites followed behind on its trails. In the capricious climate switching between gloominess and scorchiness, half melt, dented by an asteroid in collision. Eons gone by, sooner or later their faces would turn towards the earth, like unfinished pieces of art. Plaster under wood carving gouges became Chrysium, Ibrium, Nectaris, and Serenitatis. Thank you. All right. So with this, it seems to me that we come to the end of this session. And we still have a few minutes. And if you will allow me, I mean, once again, I am asking your indulgence here. I have received a message from Mara Venuto that she read her poems in Italian and her translations were not read or were not displayed. And she would like that her translations would also be part of the archives part of this event. And I think rightly so. So in that case, if you would bear with me, I would want to pull out Mara Venuto's, the translation of Mara Venuto's poems and share those with you. Again, second one also is without a title. It exists no longer, the place, and we no longer exist in the place. We had answers to heavy questions. We let them die. Inside, a no expression. We were the place and then desertion, refusing a land and keeping it between our teeth as undigested fibers while looking for one place. Number 3, guest. I am the guest of my paper flesh and of walls written in depigmented ink. The rented body remains empty, a house on loan, traversed by memories that make it rain inside. 4. 1,000 shards. There's an old warehouse of used souls right behind my back, shattered into shards of centrifugal substance. I'd be whole, looking like a deaf ox, tied to a nothingness, striving to be a something. But I'm not, and I'm still searching for my 1,000 shards. Again, no title. The shelter is the fault, and the fault a resounding repetition in the heap, a placid falling on one another, to smell nothing alive. The work of art lies in the pieces, metal bent into crushed wood, a design decodable only from above, not to betray for pain, not being able to love anything else. Do not repair your head on the journey. 6. In passing. Nothing changes, says a man who passes me by. And yet, time changes, maintaining an unending relay of seconds. Seasons change without a warning. Also, the color of the air that I breathe, and the weather changes too. It causes a spasm in my chest that I drown in a sip of water, and so it vanishes along with a childish fright conceived by my fear of remaining an insentient sheet of photographic paper, while the whole world goes by. 7. Ebb. Pale summer air dragged along the port's shore by its hair, moonbeams. My stomach's ebb salts the currents with its lemon tears. The sand I touch is a mishmash of rocks of my ancestors. It lingers to torture hands through fingers' creaks, kneaded with life, with water that you can't drink. Again, no title. The last leaf has fallen from the wood. Clinging on, lifeless, it touched the ground just before noticing its withered antibody sap. A capillary duct has broken off, the same I ran through as a child, a bourgeois sports field in which to beat fake enemies without leaving home. Winter. On cold days, fragile crystals crust over the tongues of children who stick them out towards the sky. Kites on earth, hands turned to paper, which cuts ices over glass skin and breaks up unguarded like the deserted alcove of disenchanted weds. Gleaming ash settles in the brazier. Winter is a boundary which says wait, while fire-evoked words crackle, a bellows gently blowing forgetfulness. Off our shoulders. One morning when the heat was not enough and no soul was healed, with kids' play and milky mouths, a piece of bread that looked like Africa broke off and sank. A winter of distance fell off our shoulders and bare limbs thrown. Thank you for allowing me to read that as well. All right. Thank you very much for we've come to the end of our second session, and we will now get together again at 1:35. Welcome back, everyone. I see friends again. So here, welcome, Elisa. I can see you there. How are you doing? I hope you can hear me. Yes, good. We shall start with our friend and poet from Cuba, Virgilio Lopez Lemus. And though he is not able to connect via Zoom from Cuba, okay, so hola, I'm going to introduce Virgilio Lopez Lemus from Cuba. He's a poet, essayist, critic, translator, professor, and literary researcher, doctor of philological sciences, researcher, and university professor, academician of merit from the Cuban Academy of Sciences, member of the Union of Writers and Artists of Cuba. and professor who's been invited to various universities of Rouen and Caen, and visiting professor at the Catholic University of Chile. Decorated with distinction for national culture, Carlos Jeffini Order, Alejo Carpentier Medal, illustrious son of Sancti Spiritus, distinguished son of Saint Fiojos, and Rafael Alberti Poetry Prize, and many other prizes, by the way. He has more than 600 texts published in books, magazines, and newspapers in those and other countries. He has published 14 anthologies of Cuban and Latin American poetry, among them 200 Years of Cuban Poetry, 1790 to 1900, 100 anthological poems, 1999 and 2001, 14 collections of his own poetry, among them The Bread of Asher, Quadernos, the Otredad, Body of the Day, A Slight Knock of the Knocker, and many others written in human flesh. He is one of the most distinguished of Cuban poets, not just in the contemporary times and the contemporary world, but in the tradition of Cuban poetry as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to hear him actually in the audio recording that he sent us, because there is difficulty from anyone in Cuba to connect with us either via Zoom or WhatsApp in a video sort of presentation. So just bear with me a minute and we'll put up the audio recordings. We have this picture of his in front of Jose Marti's bust, actually. And this is from the Jose Marti Library in Havana.
Reparador de misiles, instalador de ojivas, desollinador de cohetes tierra a tierra. En cada gabinete, un ministerio de relaciones afectuosas.
Shall I go to the next?
El poeta. Yo soy el jorobado. Me retuerzo en la sábana nocturna soñándome atleta. Y soy el paralítico en una silla dura y giradora. La muchacha fea. El pederasta cuando escupe la sal. El corredor caído que gime y se levanta y sobre todo se siente triunfador del mundo. Soy la asesinada de aquel día en el primer dolor de la cuchilla y el sacerdote muerto que ya no encuentra a Dios. Abro los ojos de recién nacido y lloro por la bella luz que arde como un fuego. Yo soy la anciana con temor del tiempo y el muchacho con miedo de la vida. A todos yo los prohijo y los abrazo. Hermanos, la tanta luz confunde mis tinieblas. Ubisun, ¿dónde están los bosques formidables? Habitación de lobos, pero también de flores. Extrañas flores llenas de aromas salvajes. ¿Dónde están los asientos de cristal por donde corren aguas más claras que los cielos? ¿Qué se hicieron los árboles incontaminados donde solía el cielo demorarse al pie de una flauta de amor? ¿Qué se hicieron los lechos naturales creados para el goce de la pareja eterna, enlazada bajo el ala del ángel? ¿Y las aves dónde están? ¿A qué regiones del tiempo irreversible se mudaron? Naturaleza, lo que fuiste ya es utopía, lo que serás no sé, eterno ¿qué se hicieron? ¿Dónde están?
So the first one is the poet. I am the hunchback. I writhe in the night sheet, dreaming myself an athlete. And I am the paralyzed in a hard spinning chair, the ugly girl, the pedophile, when he spits out the salt, the fallen corridor that mourns, and he gets up, and above all, he feels like a winner of the world. I am the murdered of that day, at the first pain of the blade, and the dead priest that no longer finds God. I open my newborn eyes, and I cry for the light, the beautiful light, that burns like a fire. I am the old woman afraid of time and the boy afraid of life. To all, I forbid them and I hug them. Siblings, so much light confuses my darkness. Next one is called Release. To the governments from all the countries on earth, abolish exotic trades, missile repairmen, warhead installers, ground-to-ground rocket chimney sweep, create in each cabinet a ministry of loving relationships. And the final one, Ubi sunt. Where are the formidable forests, room of wolves, but also of flowers, strange flowers full of wild aromas? Where are the glass seats? Where waters flow clearer than the heavens? What became of the uncontaminated trees where the sky used to linger at the foot of a flute of love? What became of the natural beds created for the enjoyment of the eternal couple, bound under the wing of an angel? And the birds, where are they? To what regions of time irreversible have moved? Nature, what you were is already utopia. What you will be, I don't know. Eternal, what they did, where are they? Right. Thank you. All right, and so we move on from here to our next poet. Habib, you there, Habib? Yes, indeed, you are there. Let me introduce you. It's wonderful to see you there. He's a Moroccan poet, translator, musician, and assistant professor of English at the Ibn Zohar University, Agadir, Morocco. His research focuses on the cultural encounters, colonial discourse, and post-colonial theory, and he worked the Beats archives. He worked at the Beats archives at the University of Fulbright grant. He took creative writers at Chattanooga University, Boulder, Colorado, where he performed with Anne Waldman and Thurston Moore. His articles, poems, and Arabic translations of beat writers appeared in various literary magazines, journals, and reviews, such as Al-Quds, Al-Arabi, Al-Mutakaf. And if I read out the full sort of bio, we will not have enough time to hear his poems. But there's a lot of publications that Al-Habib Louai has, and distinguished both as a writer of poems and as a translator. He has also contributed with Arabic translations to 7 countries, an anthology against Trump's ban published by Arroyo Seco Press. And he has published 2 collections of his own poems. Mrs. Jones Will Now Know, Poems of a Desperate Rebel, and Rotten Wounds Embalmed with Tar, which was a finalist for the 2020 Sillerman First Book Prize for African Poetry. Al-Habib, we welcome you. I welcome you very warmly, very cordially. Please present your poems. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Mr. Wakas, Hoja, for organizing this. Can you hear me clearly? Okay. So the first poem is called The Current Plan for Michael and Cosmos Rothenberg. The current plan against death and loss is to be awake, intensely present, willful, and warned. It is to cry like a baby in the arms of a new beloved. God, whose bad decision it was to snatch a flower in its prime. Was it a murder, a crime, or mere coincidence? I imagine you standing in front of the lake, blank. I stand with you, my dear friend, from afar. I hold you in my heart. I turn off the dim lights of the southern night. I let a few stars shine above, and I try hard to invoke a godly providence, but I reckon I know nothing about bad decisions. My friend, I strive to glean something from death to remake a reality that refuses to be real. And I direct my tears to infinite skies above me, imploring, who is this God who wastes too much of his blood? Who is this God who wastes too much of his sperm? Who is this God who wastes too much of his breath? Who is this God who composes flesh to be eaten? Who is this God who no longer knows what life is about? The second poem is called The Madman of the Village. You can claim he is mad, but does not mean he is crazy. Ask anybody strolling in the narrow lanes, and they would say there is a sense in his mumbles. Nothing bad about one who talks to himself. Nothing bad about one who rambles. Nothing bad about one who sticks around. Poets talk to themselves oftentimes. Ted Jones and Bob Kaufman talk to themselves. Why send anybody up for special observation? A week or two of electrical shock, what good does it do to a conscious being? I saw it, man. I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness. I saw madness in young and old men wearing galoshes. I saw it in young and old women with crew cuts and crimson lipstick. I saw it on faces of unemployed jesters, in midnight junkies, engineer executives with drooping eyes and loose eyelashes. I saw it in post-dawn jazz musicians whistling down the streets. I reckon to be saying, you gotta be clean and inoculate. You gotta trim and primp yourself, wear new Swedish shoes, so you will not be looked down on for your looks, not to stray from the same premises, the same points. They want you to pretend you hear the angels sing in heavens, to stop picking your despicable nose, to stop biting your delicious nails, and feel a blooming spring in a gloomy winter. They want you to fix your rotten teeth and wear a smile, buy a decent mattress for a hard floor, kill your favorite sturdy roaches. Perhaps then you will belong. So much space between us, we who are not yet insane. So much black light from the moon bedazzling us. The distance gonna not hold. The closeness shuts out any attempts at true love, real safety. Ahmed is not the only fool of the village. Do not strap him tight. Do not hold him quiet. He has got no selfish reasons like the zealous clergy. No pride to chew on like a barn cow. You think you have the upper hand, but remember, if you keep it, you will lose circulation in one arm. Okay, another last one. Some want the world as it is to become eternal. Some want the world as it is to become eternal, while they doodle in the margin of a life bigger than death. Every single day, being is being, merely a result of an event. I am pestered by semi-finished resort hotels. I have seen them everywhere. They are all alike. Every time I thought I'd enjoy an interval of lucidity with myself in a journey to the edge of the world, they show to blur my vision. Soon we will have more tourists than travelers. Soon we will have more wasteful luxury. Soon we will have more junior executives with prestigious badges. There are too many of them here now. They came on private jets from Kafkaville. They still seek exotic land, some tropic hellholes with brown and dark-skinned fellas creeping on them. They are after buried treasures in deserted shrines, gold, diamonds, drugs, pussies, and asses, or something they call the secret of life. Some want the world as it is to become eternal. Those who came last grapple with a different reality, so grim, then grab the goods and hightail it home. How much should I care about this conundrum? How much does home care cost? I'm still looking for socialism with a human face. I abhor the pieties of bourgeois decorum. I still seek liberation from consumerism, the shackles of gender abuse, religious zeal, and military nationalism. I still believe reason can save me from self-inflicted tutelage to false beliefs in authority and traditions. I am against the profits of deceit, empty promises, unconditional charity to scapegoat immigrants. I strive to finish the month, put some processed cheese in my white loaves, treat myself to some papaya juice and look through the window. I still hope to write novels that would not please but tease those who avoid the cold look of the real. My heroes and heroines will not be young, beautiful, and tanned. They will not glance at the Vermouth bottle briefly while pouring the juniper distillate freely. They will not have fast cars. They will not spend holidays in Côte d'Azur. They will receive paychecks and deposits in fragmented time distilled from their lives. The fatigue shall overtake them as they head towards similar failures. Some want the world as it is to become eternal. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so very much, Al-Habib, and I hope you're hearing the clapping, the accolades behind you. So really appreciate your participation.